How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here, back again with your Around the NCAA recap on the Pitt Panthers Football Network. We are in week number 7, or we've finished up week number 7, I should say. Your Pitt Panthers were off this week, but plenty of big games went on around the NCAA. We're going to recap them and take a look forward the rest of the season. Clemson obliterated Boston College, didn't have the same run-in as Florida State did with them 52-7 win. Wake Forest 38-21 over Virginia. Florida State 35-10 over Nevada. Syracuse 41-24 over struggling NC State. Louisville defeats Virginia Tech 27-20 to come away with a big victory after their loss last week to Houston, so big win for them. Around the NCAA, Oklahoma with one of the biggest wins of the week, staying undefeated and keeping their claim potentially to a BCS title game berth, 21-16 over Texas. Air Force with a massive 31-28 victory over number 15 Notre Dame. Field goal with 4 seconds left from 26 yards gives them the win. Notre Dame's done that to 2 teams already this season, so a little taste of their own medicine. Houston stays unbeaten with a win over Memphis, and Wisconsin stayed undefeated as well. So does Ohio State with a blowout of Maryland. Clemson 52-7, of course, over Boston College. Penn State with a 21-10 over Michigan. Huge upset for the Nittany Lions at Beaver Stadium. They completely shut down that Michigan offense, held them to 10 points, and McSorley with 2 touchdown passes. Saquon Barkley with a touchdown run. Their big guys coming up in the clutch. Ole Miss with the win over Texas A&M. Utah with the win over Stanford, a ranked battle. Number 17 Stanford versus 24 Utah. Big win for Utah to keep moving up in the polls. Baylor with the win. Louisville 27-20, of course, over Virginia Tech. Mizzou knocks off unbeaten Georgia, so it's a week for unbeatens to go down. Michigan goes down. Georgia goes down. A couple of big upsets in that regard. UCLA does escape over Cal. Washington continues their string of big wins. They beat Stanford last week. Now they come away with a 48-14 win over Oregon. Absolute domination. I'll tell you what, just ridiculous talent by Washington put on display. And your players of the week, Brett Rippon of Boise State with a 5-touchdown performance, and John Reed 2 interceptions in that victory over Michigan to help shut down that Michigan offense and give Penn State the win, and I'm sure they'll be into the rankings after that one this week here. For the ACC, Deshaun Watson, 400-yard almost performance, 5 touchdowns in the win over BC, and Corey Winfield with really 6 tackles and an interception for Syracuse and their win. So a couple of players wearing orange with the players of the week for this particular week. And that big performance puts Deshaun Watson at the cream of the crop for our Heisman watch. Joe Mixon drops to 2nd. Greg Ward Jr. is up to 3rd now as Houston stays unbeaten. DeAndre Francois back into it. Another big performance from him for Florida State as Mike Weber drops down to 5th here in the polls. But Greg Ward just keeps silently putting up numbers. Deshaun Watson, though, has been far and away an unbelievable player and one of the best in college football. But Francois is a redshirt freshman, 4 touchdowns again against Nevada, and Weber with 92 yards against Maryland as he's starting to slip out of the Heisman contention or the favorites there. But if we look at the Coastal here, Miami, still cream of the crop, cruising right now. Your Pitt Panthers, though, with their 2nd ACC conference game of the season coming up this week. Clemson is looking far and away the best team in the Atlantic. They've already played 4 conference games, and they've won all of them. So, really, if they can get past a couple of hurdles, Wake Forest, who is 3-1 in Louisville, they're going to be good to go. And so, with that, around the NCAA, let's get a recap going here of how things look in the NCAA. Number 1, Alabama. Yet again, there's nobody's going to unseat them. Alabama also jumps to number 1 in the media poll in spite of not playing and Clemson having a really dominant performance. Alabama jumps them in the media poll as well and is won unanimously across the country. Oklahoma 2, Clemson 3 as they all win. Washington's 4, Ohio State's up to 5 with Michigan losing. Miami, despite not playing, jumps 4 spots up to 6 as they try and group the unbeatens together. Houston to 7, LSU up to 8. Wisconsin jumps 5 spots up to 9th as they stay unbeaten. Florida State up to 10th. Tennessee back up to 11th. Michigan drops all the way to 12th after that loss to Penn State, who you can see now has gone to 21st in the country. Texas back to 13th with their loss to Oklahoma. So so only a couple of spots down. Georgia drops all the way to 14th. Your Pitt Panthers coming up very soon here. UCLA's up to 15th, and your Pitt Panthers to 16th. Despite not playing, they get a 4-spot boost heading into their matchup here against Virginia Tech, and could be even further along if they do come away with a victory heading into next week's matchup with Clemson. But Baylor up to 17, Utah all the way up to 18th, 6-spot jump with their win over Stanford. Oregon back to 19 after losing to Washington. Louisville to 20. Penn State jumps into the rankings at 21 after that huge victory over number 5 Michigan. Ole Miss up to 22 with their win over Texas A&M, who drops back to 25. Navy undefeated still is up into the polls at 23rd. Florida to 24th, and Texas A&M drops to 25th. So Notre Dame and Stanford out of the polls after respective losses there, though they're certainly not far away from getting back into the polls. There's no doubt about that. But with our rankings here, let's take a look at the big games this week. Number 8, LSU taking on number 22, Ole Miss. Herb Street likes the Tigers going into Mississippi, coming away with the victory behind the strength of Leonard Fournette. Number 10, Florida State. Number 3, Clemson. This is really just the matchup of the season here. This is the true test for Clemson. 6-0. Can they hold off 5-1 Florida State? Herb Street likes the Seminoles to go into Death Valley and come away with the victory. And the other big game in NCAA football this week, your Pitt Panthers against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has struggled. They have not won a game in Pittsburgh since 1999. The Panthers have won 6 of the last 7 meetings between the teams. Panthers have a couple of prospects visiting as well and look to improve to 5-1. Herb Street likes the Panthers in this matchup. Number 1 rush defense, fantastic offense, very, very balanced with a ton of rushing. We take a look at Virginia Tech. They beat North Carolina, which is a convincing victory, but other than that, they've lost most of their real tough opponents, Bama, Georgia Tech, Louisville, so nobody too exciting other than that win over North Carolina. We look at their leaders here. Gerard Evans has been very, very good. 12 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, so he's definitely the big player to watch out for. Rogers averaging 84 a game on the ground, and then, of course, Bucky Hodges is a just dynamic target. Him and Isaiah Ford are going to be guys that the Panthers are going to have to watch out for, but Gerard Evans, 12-2 is a fantastic ratio, and we know he can do that on the ground as well. He's a big, big boy who can do a lot of stuff. But Rogers having a good game, or a good season for Virginia Tech. Of course, Ford, Hodges, and Phillips are the 3 guys that are going to give the Panthers the most trouble. We know they've struggled with pass defense this year, so if they can get pressure on the quarterback, it might limit the ability of the passing game to beat them. But not a great offensive line for Virginia Tech, so hopefully the Panthers can exploit that with their very solid Juan Price, one of the best rushers in the country, as well as Tyreek Jarrett in the middle. And the Virginia Tech defense doesn't have any real standouts. Faces sends a fantastic corner, but otherwise there's nobody really intimidating to this Panthers attack. So it really comes down to if they can get as many points as they usually do, 30 plus, if they can hold Gerard Evans in check, the Panthers should be able to come away with a win. And that is why in our Pitt Predictor this week, we are predicting the Panthers to come away with a 34-27 victory over Virginia Tech. There's no doubt Evans is going to get a few down the field to Hodges and the likes of his receiving core and create some havoc against that poor Panthers pass defense. But the Pitt offense has been so stellar this season that we predict them to do just enough to come away with a win. So we are projecting your Panthers to win 34-27. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Let us know what you think of some of the other big games coming up this week. And as always, we'll see you at the Pitt Virginia Tech game, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.